Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Many of you have asked if I would recreate one of the dishes that led me to win on Guy's Grocery Games. I won the clearance wars. So the idea behind that is you had to use a basket full of unsavory items in different dishes. And the second round was cheesy comfort food. So immediately, of course, I thought about mac and cheese, but I also had to use some of my clearance products. And these two, shrimp ramen and marshmallows, were the ones that I was the most intimidated by. Because you want to make sure that the flavors are there, otherwise they're not going to know you used them. But shrimp ramen is extremely salty, and marshmallows are sweet, and that's really kind of hard to incorporate. So what I did was I made a basic bechamel, and then I added a bunch of different cheeses. Again, I follow the same rule when I make mac and cheese. I look for a cheese that's creamy, so it'll make a nice smooth texture, and then I look for at least one cheese that has a lot of strong punch. I can't honestly tell you what cheeses I took for the game because we were running around like crazy, but the idea is that you have to have strong flavor and you have to have something that's creamy. So once my cheese sauce came together, I added a handful of marshmallows. Now marshmallows, which I later discovered, they have a really strong sweet flavor, but we can mellow it out by adding just a little bit more cayenne. So we want to try to balance the sweet with the savory, right? We're going to melt those in, and we're going to add just a little more cayenne pepper, not because it's going to make it spicy, but it's going to subdue the sweetness of those marshmallows, and that's what we have to do. I used the ramen noodles with my regular pasta. I figured it would lend the appearance, and you'd have this feeling that you were eating cheese that's melty and, you know, stringy while you were eating it. And then I had to use some pepperoni, and I had to use the rest of my ramen, the shrimp packet. So this was way more intimidating than the actual noodle part of it. So I decided to top my marshmallow mac and cheese with fried pepperoni, which I'm going to show you in a second, and some sauteed shrimp where I seasoned it with this bad boy. So I'm warming up a little bit of oil while my cheese sauce is melting. We're going to move one pan over and switch pans for a second. And then I'm going to add some diced onion to it. Let's turn this heat up. I just wanted some onions that I could caramelize to add a little bit, again, a different type of sweetness to balance out all the crazy flavors we had going on in our dish. And then I have some beautiful peeled and deveined shrimp here that are fully defrosted. If you need to defrost shrimp quickly, put them in a colander, run it under cold water for a while, and you will have defrosted shrimp. The one thing I have learned while making this recipe is less is definitely more. So go easy on things that have very strong flavors, like the marshmallows, like the shrimp flavor packet, and so forth. So now that I can see that I've got some bubble going, I want to put my shrimp down. These are really big ones. These are 8 to 12 in a pound, so that means 8 to 12 shrimp in a pound. So they're going to take about 2 minutes on a side. Now, the flavor packet. You want to be really careful that you don't dump the whole flavor packet in. So you want to make sure you kind of use it like salt, because really that's what it is. It is salt. So we want to put enough on it where it's boosting the flavor of the shrimp. So you'll see my shrimp are going to turn from a translucent color, and they start to get pink and a solid white as they cook down. So You just want to make sure that you've rubbed them all into that seasoning. One's ready to turn around. We want to make sure we cook them all the way through. This is also adding that shrimp flavor to these fried or caramelized onions as well. So I'm going to use them for my plating. Let's start heating up our oil for pepperoni. So, you know, when we make traditional mac and cheese, that crunchy topping is really desirable, yeah? So I had pepperonis to use instead. So I immediately thought I need something crispy. I've got something really velvety. I've got the meatiness of the shrimp, but I'm going to use my pepperoni and I'm going to fry it up. Luckily on set or in our restaurant, we have a deep fryer. Most of us don't want to deep fry at home, and I totally get it because I don't like to. But it's quite simple to do when it's something so tiny as thin strips of pepperoni. You could leave them as whole rounds, but this is going to be a nicer garnish, than the other way. So, ooh, my shrimp are ready. They look gorgeous. Let's move them off to the side. We're playing moving pans, rotating our pans. Okay, so we're going to get our oil nice and hot because we want them to crisp up. Pepperoni are just naturally very soft and greasy, so they really crisp up very well because there's a high fat content in it. So it won't take very much time, and it doesn't take very much oil. I just have a thin layer here because I'm just going to add enough pepperoni in at a time to garnish up my dish. So let's test one. We're going to drop it in. We're not hearing that sizzle. We're hearing this sizzle. Let me move this a little bit farther away. Okay, now you can see that it's starting to bubble and float up. So our oil is getting nice and hot. So we want to drop in. I don't want to drop them all in at once because I want them to kind of separate out. They stick together pretty well. And honestly, if you want really nice and crispy pepperoni, you've got to use cheap pepperoni. Don't buy fancy pepperoni at the deli. It doesn't have enough fat to say, ooh, that's going to crisp up well. And it will pop. So you can stand a little farther back, do it. Once our pepperoni has browned up, we're going to pull it out, put it on a paper towel to drain off all that fat. You definitely don't want to cover them. You can do this ahead of time and just leave it on a paper towel, and they will stay nice and crisp for quite a few days. So let's plate up our mac and cheese. We have our macaroni in our bowl. We're going to take, like I said, these are huge shrimp, so maybe we'll just put 2 on. Get a little bit of that awesome onion mixture. And then we're going to add some crispy pepperoni right on the top. And there you have traditional mac and cheese turned into the Guy's Grocery Games Mallow mac and cheese. So absolutely, it's actually pretty good. Everyone who's had it so far has enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this dish, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for more tasty recipes. Thanks!